the salt flats of Iuni did not disappoint. A sort of place where you can take an incredible amount of photos purely because of the way the salt flats are. But before we done that, the aim for the tour guide was to see the sunrise over the salt flats themselves. Now, in order to do that, it involved a start at about 4:30 I think in the morning, about an hour's drive, and we drove all the way to this tiny little island, pretty much in the middle of the salt flats. I forget the name, to be honest with you, but it was a tiny little island in the middle of the salt flats in Iuni. Incredibly, this tiny little island had fauna that you would only find on that island. Again, apparently. Tiny little island in the middle of the salt flats where certain cactuses and flowers that you literally only find on that particular island. Bonkers. We were nearly late for the sunrise because we didn't realise there'd be quite a trek on this little island as well, up rocky roads, steps, etc, etc. It took us by surprise. And also, surprise, fucking cold first thing in the morning when you're in the arse end of nowhere. But watching the sunrise come up over the salt flats was cool. I think Aaron and I were not arrogant about it. I think having seen the sunrise at the Ahutongariki in Easter Island, probably agree that's probably the best sunrise we're ever going to see in our lives. But that being said, the sun coming up and then you're reflecting on this vast sea of white. If you're ever going to be there doing that, wear sunglasses. Top tip, wear sunglasses at the salt flats in Bolivia. Really, apart from that, it's just incredibly white. It's exactly what you'd expect for salt flats, to be brutally honest with you. After watching sunrise and Marcella making us some breakfast, we just drove around the salt flats. The tour guide stopped us quite a few times and then suggested different photos that we could take. And again, because of the mirage that you get from the salt flats, I think we had photos of drinking out of, looks like we're drinking out of big beer bottles, jumping over the Jeep, all of these sorts of things. Go and check it out on our social media channel. Have a look at the photos that you can see on the socials. You'll see what we mean. Or getting Google snapshots of people on the salt flats in Uyuni. In a nutshell, that was the salt flats done. And we spent a few hours taking all the photos. The aim was to be in Uyuni for just after lunch, and that's exactly what happened. We arrived, we got dropped off, we said our thanks to the driver, the tour guide and Marcella, gave everyone a nice tip as well. They were incredibly happy with that. And to be fair, when I look back on it now, approx $35 a day, all inclusive, for a tour around Bolivia or part of Bolivia, incredible value for cash. So very, very happy days on that. They drove off. Nancy and her partner also pretty much headed off straight away. We had no idea really what we wanted to do after Iuni, so we decided to stay a night in a hotel. We hadn't booked anything. We just walked in and paid like $10, whatever it was, to stay in this place. Again, two things about that. Number one, it was nice to have a hot shower again, which was cool, especially after playing around in the salt all day. And secondly, it had been about 4.5 days since we'd had social media, which I know sounds crazy. Even back in 2014, it sounded crazy, but it was such a good mental release from social media. It was very eye-opening, shall we say, and refreshing. That's the word. It's very refreshing there to not sort of be playing around on your phone. Apart from taking photos, it was just a very refreshing thing to have done. Now, being a bit of a train geek, as you know, Iuni is also famous for one other thing, and that is the Cementerio de Trenes, a train graveyard. Oh yes, absolutely spot on. A train graveyard, sorry. So we ended up walking there in the afternoon, and you've never seen so many derelict trains in your life. Absolutely. You got old bangers, steam engines, all basically looking like they're scrap, and they're not doing a lot there. They might have reopened the rail links nowadays. Certainly didn't look like there was any passenger trains when we were there, although apparently freight still runs because we had crossed some tracks previously, and I think I saw a train. So that is what it is. So we spent a little bit of time around there. Again, you're in 30 degrees, you're looking at trains. I couldn't have had a better afternoon, if I'm being honest with you. And we chilled out in on the main street, a couple of beers, got the old Lonely Planet out, and decided, what should we do next? Had a look round. Lonely Planet was out. We kind of read that Sucre was meant to be really good. We were thinking about going into the heart of the Amazon, maybe going to Santa Cruz de la Sierra, maybe getting a flight out there, or Riber Alta in the severe northeast of Bolivia. But we decided against that. And the reason we decided against that was, number one, we knew we had to stick to a budget. Number two, we'd recently booked in to go to the Galapagos anyway. And that was, that was Aaron's main thing. That was Aaron's key thing. So we decided that would be the thing to do. And also that, we needed to stick to a budget, but there was some other cool places in between. So before you get to Sucre, on the long and winding roads of Bolivia, there was a place called Potosi, right in the hills of Bolivia, and famed for its silver. Not to be confused with San Luis de Potosi in Mexico, which pretty much fed the Spanish for years and years and years with their silver mining. But Potosi was also, the South American equivalent there of silver mining. So we headed up there. We read in the Lonely Planet. We just stood and waited for a bus. And we got talking to a couple from Nottinghamshire, Russ and Anna. And they were on their travels. Great people. Had a laugh with them on the bus, and decided that when we got off at Potosi, we should go for a beer or something. And that's exactly what we did. Now, there's no right or wrong way to travel. You can travel in any way you want. It's the same with property to an extent. As long as you do things legally, within reason, there is really nothing to worry about when you travel. And it was great hanging out with Russ and Anna. It really was. They were telling us all about their work back in Nottinghamshire, what they were doing, and hoping to start a family soon and that sort of stuff. And they weren't as well travelled as myself and Aaron, so they were a bit unsure, places to go, places to things to see, things to do, etc., etc. So we just said, look, let's all hang around for a few days. Let's we got beer, we got food. What could possibly go wrong? And we had a bit of a laugh in Potosi. There was one day, I think pretty much the first day that we got there, we headed up to the Mercado Central. And I remember walking down the road, and we've been used to going into loads of markets and getting a bit hungry. And we were all saying we should probably get something to eat. So I said to, Aaron made the suggestion, that we should all go into the Mercado Central. Russ and Anna didn't look too sure. And they said, well, why would you go in there? And we said, well, if you're going to get proper market food at really good prices, and you want to be in with the locals, you want to go to the local market. But they weren't sure on the Spanish side of it, and didn't know a lot of words, knew a little bit, but So I said, don't worry about that, I've got that, we'll crack in. And we went in, and as I mentioned before on these episodes, you get a couple of moments where you walk in somewhere and the eyes just look at you. And that was the case here. 4 gringos walking in, right into the main market, looking for something to eat. It's about dinner time. Pretty much the world and his wife were shouting at us to go to their station, come here, eat here, give us all your money, that sort of stuff. We ended up settling down at this table, and this woman was cooking up salchipapas, similar to what we'd had in Chile there. So you're looking at your sausages, your chips. I think for her as well, she put some onions and bits and bobs on as well. So we all had some salchipapas, had a laugh. She got a couple of beers for us as well, which was really nice, and it was delightful. It was that good that we said, let's come back tomorrow. So we said to the lady, thank you very much, that was great, we'll see you tomorrow. Now the following day came, and we were in the various museums that following day. I think we ended up in the Casa Nacional de Moneda de Potosi, looking at all the mining museums, all of these things, looking at a multitude of things there. I think we went off to watch some football as well at the local stadium. And if you remember back in Uruguay when we were watching Peñarol against Jorge Wilstermann, I said to you then that we would see them twice. This is where we saw them again. They were playing away at, I think it was, Real Potosí, I think the team was called. They were playing at the local stadium. We all went there to watch some football, including a couple of Australian guys from the hostel as well. It was freezing cold, despite the fact that it was about 3 PM, and we were all incredibly underdressed for the event as well. So not the greatest football game in the world. Again, you've got to be looking at the altitude, and it's amazing that these people are even able to play professional football, 90-minute game up there, because it really does take it out of you. But that evening, we didn't go back to the market. Didn't think anything of it, but we didn't go back to the market. And it was only the following day, again, Russ, Anna and Aaron had gone off to one of the mountains nearby to do a mining tour. I didn't go, I'm a bit claustrophobic, didn't like the idea of being stuck underground in a mine, but they did get to play with dynamite, I was told, and blow up some stuff when they were down there as well. And we were introduced to Bolivian miner's drink. Now, Bolivian miner's drink, it pretty much is pure ethanol, without a shadow of a doubt. So, you get your percentage ABVs on things, bottles and whatnot that you see, whiskies, gins, vodkas, about 40%. But Bolivian miner's drink is at least 97%. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. That's pretty strong. My word, it was. Incredibly strong. I was brought back a sample and, you get off your head quite easily with that. The reason for the mining drink, the reason for that drink is to basically stop people from passing gas. So farting basically in the mines, because that could lead to a, build up of dangerous gases, could create explosions, bombs away, not good for the people inside the mine. Again, I was told this later on in the day. But anyway, getting back to the market by waffling on. So we went back to the market that evening and we went back to the same woman. And the woman was furious with me. Absolutely furious. The reason for that was that if you say you're going to do something, and this is what we found out in Bolivia, if you say you're going to do something, you better do it. So if you say, I'll see you tomorrow at 3, you better be turning back up at 3 o'clock. They don't like it when you don't hold your word, basically. The woman was fuming. Cue 5 minutes of me saying, lo siento muchísimo, and, we're at the football and we forgot, and, all of these sorts of things. She took it in good heart eventually and provided another cracking meal. I remember at the end that we gave her a tip, and it must have been 10-15 Bolivianos a meal. That's about £1, £1.20. Again, between the four of us, we gave her, 20-30 Bolivianos as an extra thank you, whatever it was. And she was incredibly happy about this. She was running up and down the market pretty much saying, look what I've got, all of this sort of stuff. For us, it's nothing. For her, it's probably, an extra bit of change is a good thing. Happy to help back, happy to help and do what we can, where we can. And that's the joy of being in places like that. We wouldn't have been able to have done that if we hadn't have gone into the Mercado Central in the first place. Even I remember Russ saying afterwards, he said, lads, if we weren't with you, we just wouldn't have gone in there at all. We wouldn't have thought about it to go in there, and it was a fantastic experience. And that was that. That was Potosí. Other places are available. Mining places are available. But there's a really good set of walk in there. A really intriguing place to see. And again, going back to the Casa Nacional de Moneda de Potosí, which is effectively the national mint of Bolivia. If you're ever in and around Potosí, go and see that. Phenomenal museum, incredibly informative, and be honest with you, there's nothing quite like looking at gold and silver. Hey ho, it is quite a cool thing to do. That was Potosí. That was Potosí done. From there, as a quartet now, we decided to head off to Sucre, the supposed capital city of Bolivia. We'll go into that in the next episode. So goodbye Potosí, goodbye silver mining, goodbye lovely lady at the Bolivian Mercado Central, off to Sucre. Hasta luego.